There is no life in inanimate objects. Things cannot care about other things. Things cannot possess empathy for other things. Things cannot show compassion for other things. Only human beings have been given the opportunity to share in God's nature, to where now we have the capacity to care about other human beings. We have the capacity to have compassion on other human beings, because we are now one, we are now intimate, we are now inner mates with the one who has created all of life. And now we see other human beings through his eyes. But when we divorce ourselves from his spirit, we are nothing more than walking zombies. The Racial Unity Leadership Summit is a national initiative that began in Churches of Christ that offers participants an opportunity to experience spiritual transformation in the area of relationships across racial lines. We seek to not only provide solid theological information, but in addition to providing solid theological information, we seek to provide life-changing inspiration. Far too often we seek to resolve the racial problems in the church and in America through providing more information. Information provides more knowledge, but inspiration provides wisdom and character. We are fascinated with information. We are now all traveling on the information highway. And sometimes traveling on the information highway can puff us up with pride and arrogance, because we have access to information and we can know some stuff that other folk don't know. But I warn us to be careful how we travel on the information highway, because there's both good and evil on the information highway that we call the World Wide Web, or the internet, net. Some of us are getting caught up in the net and getting trapped in the web. Help me somebody. Because we're getting information from a world that is divorced from God. And whatever information you get, whatever information goes into you, it has the power to form your inner life. Information forms your way of thinking. And there's a whole lot of twisted and distorted information on the information highway. But there's another source that wisdom comes from, and that's God. But some people are just so hungry for information that they're willing to bite into the apple. Some of us have an Apple computer with one bite. It has an emblem on there of an apple with one bite taken out of it. Now, we don't know what kind of fruit it was that they ate of in the garden, amen? But you know, most of us we were raised to think that it was an apple. And so on the Apple computer, the emblem of an apple with one bite out of it, and we just biting all over the place. Megabytes, gigabytes, just eating up information that's being generated by a fallen world. It is inspiration that distinguishes the Holy Bible that was written by inspired men from other historical books that were written by informed men. Inspired men were men whose minds, hearts, and souls were embedded in the Holy Spirit of God. They were immersed in the Holy Spirit of God. They were inspired because they were, as Wayne Dyer says, they were in spirit. We cannot be inspirational if we are divorced from God's Spirit. That is why words from the hearts of secular leaders No matter how eloquent the speeches may be, they cannot effect lasting change because they come from a place that is not rooted and grounded in the life of God. Secular leaders can only speak as informed leaders because they do not believe in the God who provides inspiration. Informed leaders can only speak for themselves, while inspired leaders speak as the very oracles of God. Therefore, the Racial Unity Leadership Summit believes that the contemplative spiritual approach is the most practical method of transforming human hearts in matters of race. In 2 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 14, God says, "If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive them their sin and will heal their land." We believe that instead of turning to experts on race in America, we as a nation must first return to God and then finally turn to Him and seeking the answers to the race problems plaguing the church and the nation. We cannot expect for peace to rule in our land if we seek to kick God out of everything. But that is how we qualify as the sons and daughters of God, is that we are called peacemakers. But you can't make peace if you're not in relationship with the Prince of Peace. And if we kick God out of everything and we dishonor what He has written and shared with us, and we become so educated and so informed that we scoff at the Bible, then we should not be shocked nor surprised when we see people at each other's throats. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons and daughters of God. We believe that if religious leaders commit to the contemplative approach to dealing with racial division, the outcome will be genuine racial unity at the highest levels of leadership among blacks and whites. The Racial Unity Leadership Summit has conducted spiritual retreats attended by Christian leaders at Lev Shemaiah House of Prayer in Sarita, Texas, and at the Oxford Church of Christ in Oxford, Mississippi. I've also conducted one-on-one personal contemplative prayer retreats with individual leaders in a monastic setting to deal more acutely with the sin of racism in a confessional environment. This individual approach is based upon James 5:16, where James admonishes, "Therefore, confess your faults to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous person is powerful and effective." America, we must acknowledge and we must confess that we have racial faults both publicly and privately. Now, as my sister Dina mentioned earlier, it's a dangerous thing to ignore a fault. Earthquakes run along fault lines. And we can build beautiful homes and attractive buildings on top of fault lines. But when the hidden plates underneath the topsoil start to shift, everything built on top of the ground is destroyed as it falls into the abyss when the ground opens up. Everything will be swallowed up by the fault. And everybody got a fault. And no matter how much success you build up on top of that fault, all it takes is for just a little shifting, and the ground of your life opens up, and everything that you have built and constructed, all of the success that you've had, will fall into the abyss of the fault. That is why we need to admit that we have a fault in our lives. There is a separation, there is a breakage, there is a divide within us that is producing the divide that we see in our social relationships.
That's right.
And until we can sit together in a non-threatening environment to where I can step outside of my sickness and say, this is how I am sick and this is how I need your help to help me to move beyond my sickness to a greater state of health and wholeness. And we have to spend time with each other on a one-on-one basis, to where a black person can say to a white person, I have issues with you and I have issues with your race. Where a white person can sit in that environment of confession and say to an African American, I have problems with black people and this is why. This is how I was raised. This is the kind of language that was used in my home by my parents. I need you to help me to grow out of this. And until we can mark off time to where we can sit together one-on-one and really confess what we really think, no matter how ugly and distasteful and mean-spirited it may be, if we don't get it out, it will be like an abscess that if it bursts, it's going to poison our entire environment. You know, people want action, 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 and action is needed. But the first act should be silence and prayer, confession, and sharing of the hearts. And I know my time is gone. Lord have mercy. Okay, I got 3 minutes.
You go, brother.
3 minutes, okay. 3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 minutes, and I'm going to sit down. I'm going to try to. We need more inspiration and not more information. Information is good, but we need inspiration. And when we understand that inspiration means God breathed, inspiration means God's breath, things will not change as long as we're breathing out hot air. Things change when God opens his mouth. Things change when God's wind blows, as Pastor Dudley talked about on yesterday. Things and hearts change when we hear the voice of God and we do not harden our hearts. And until we receive the breath of God, we cannot experience spiritual resuscitation as individuals, as a church, or as a nation. It wasn't until Elijah had to speak to the wind and speak to the breath, to breathe on the dry bones in the valley. And it wasn't until the breath came that the bones were able to get up and life came into those bones. And it is not until God breathes on his people that we are inspired to do what he has called us to do. God breathed into man's nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. It is during the stillness of prayer, meditation, fasting, solitude, and silence that we recognize how dependent we are upon the work and actions of the Holy Spirit and reaching the goal of racial unity and reconciliation in the world. Concrete plans of action that emerge from spiritual retreats have enabled us to engage in the actual implementation of recent and upcoming national and regional initiatives that we carry out under the banner of the Racial Unity Leadership Summit. What can churches and colleges do to get involved with this work of the Racial Unity Leadership Summit? Local congregations and Christian colleges and universities can get involved in this work by sending their elders and ministers and staff, key members, college administrators, faculty, and other personnel to attend a Racial Unity Leadership Summit that may be held in an area nearby you. And then even conducting these contemplative prayer retreats among your own leadership, among your own members, specifically related to racial unity. We have held Racial Unity Leadership Summits in Atlanta, Georgia, Nashville, Tennessee, Memphis, Tennessee, Los Angeles, California, Abilene, Texas, Oxford, Mississippi, and most recently in Fresno, California. And we are so thankful to be in partnership with Dream of Destiny and the Race and Restoration Summits that are taking place primarily within the independent Christian churches. We believe that the work of racial unity that's rooted in contemplative prayer, fasting, meditation, solitude, and study will permeate every corner and should permeate every corner of the restoration heritage in every corner of America and the world. Brothers and sisters, this is really our only hope, is as we talk to one another, let us not forget to talk to God. Amen. But before we seek to listen to one another, let's train our ears to first listen to the voice of God. That is our only hope. It is He who held us together in our mother's womb. It is He who holds us together this day. And if there shall be any genuine integration of our hearts and our minds and our souls, it will come as a result of what God does, and as a result of us sitting together long enough to catch the inspiring holy vision that God has for His world. Martin Luther King was not the first one to have a dream. God had a dream when He created this world. And He still has a dream for humanity. And those of us who've been called into a life with Him by Jesus Christ, we have been given a holy mission to go into all the world and to share God's dream. I don't know about you, but I don't want to fixate all of my emotions on the stuff of this life that is only temporary. Because my soul speaks to me and it tells me that I ain't got long to stay here. The trumpet sounds within my soul, reminding me that this world is not my home. And so I'm not going to waste all my time fighting over stuff that's going to be decayed anyway in the days to come. I want to fix my eyes on Him who sits high and looks low. I want to fix my eyes on that city whose maker and builder is God. Where God serves as the mayor, Jesus serves as the mayor pro tem, the Holy Spirit serves as the city manager, and the 12 apostles sit on the city council. In that city, that's where I want to fix my eyes. In that city, where I got a retirement home in a gated community. A gate to the north, a gate to the south, a gate to the east, a gate to the west. And in that city, we shall worship Him forever and forever, without time limitation. But right now, my time is up.